and welcome to this week's edition of In the Ring. I'm your host, Nick DeLore. I'm here with Frank Lombardi. Frank, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. There's so much to talk about. We have some mutual friends in common. Charlie Caserta, who passed away. Kid Sharkey, Steve Acunto. Now, Steve, he started you off back in the Y and White Plains.
White Plains, right? Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Oh, back in high school, went up there and had met somebody else that known of him, and they said, try this guy and you'll learn boxing. So we did. And we were downstairs at that time, and we went there, and it was about 15, 16, and I looked around and I said, okay, I'll see what I can do. So I got in the ring and I did what I best I could, and he saw some things in me, like the good jab, good legs, and what have you. And he said to my father, he says, keep him coming, he's doing good, he'll be great, he'll be great. But what frustrated me a little bit was the 15-year-olds and the 12-year-old boys were skipping rope, and I couldn't even skip 2 steps. You know, so it was kind of embarrassing at first, but like everything else, you know, you keep trying that and you learn it. So it got up, and we just kept going on and on and on with that. And a couple of amateur fights and some championships, of YMCA championships we had in White Plains. We used to get it almost every other month. We used to have fights going on, so it was really popular for the kids back then.
That's great. And then you decided to turn pro. What was that like? Your first pro fight was actually in the Bahamas.
Yeah, that was kind of thrown on me. What happened was we were still doing the amateurs and stuff. We would dream about it, but never think we'd make it there. And one day, it was in February, or actually it was December the year before, they showed up with this fighter named Elijah Obed. We didn't know who he was, but he was very good. He was 28-0 in the Bahamas, and he had been the same age and what have you, same weight. So we started to spar, and I picked up a lot of stuff from him, and little by little we would work every Saturday, every Wednesday, and then at one point almost every day. And he had a great right hand, but nothing of a jab. So Steve said, you can't really box just, you know, using one hand. You can't be a one-hand fighter. So he worked on him with the jab, and we used to tie his right hand and my right hand, and we used to actually defense each other, boxing and moving, just using the left hand, left hook. And this went on for a while, and we must have sparred over 200 rounds in like 4 months' time. And during that, he already set up a fight to fight for the welterweight championship of his country, the Bahamas. And with that, of course, I was his sparring mate, so I went down with him. So I just kind of went along, and then I had my first fight, and he had his championship fight, and we both were victorious.
That's incredible.
It was a great night.
That's great. And you went on, you fought 8 fights, was
it?
You were undefeated,
yes,
right?
Undefeated in the pro ranks, yes.
That's great.
Also had a couple of exhibitions with a former pro, Chico Vijar, who's a big-time contender in the 50s for cerebral palsy, because he was chairman of that. So we did some stuff in Portchester and also in Eastchester High School. Made pretty good money back then for that. So that was a pleasure to do. And he was probably one of my tough customers that I fought, because he still had it.
Yeah.
At 40, he was still going strong, you know.
Yeah, a buddy of mine, Herschel Jacobs. He's I'm sure you know Jake.
Yes, sure.
I used to spar with Jake, and he's just so hard to hit.
Yeah, you know, they're pros, and they never forget that.
They never forget it. So, their timing's almost impeccable.
A lot of experience. He had almost 93 or more fights. Matter of fact, he was just inducted this last year at the Hall of Fame in Connecticut. They have a little Hall of Fame up there, and Chico Vijar was inducted.
Yeah, it's amazing. Some of these guys had 200 or 300 fights.
Oh, unbelievable.
And these guys are fighting for titles. They want title shots after 15, 20 fights.
Sure.
Speaking of a fight, the other night, the John Duddy, Anthony Basante fight. You judged that fight.
Yes,
You're a New York State licensed judge.
I'm a New York State licensed judge, professional judge with the state of New York. And I did get the honor of judging that fight. It was an IBA world title and a WBC Continentals title. And Basante came in strong. He felt that he could do something with Duddy, but Duddy has a lot of power, a lot of youth, and a lot of aggressiveness going on his side. He was able to not stop him, but I would have to say it was a technical decision on the cuts, and we had to go to our scorecards. So our scorecards read unanimously for Duddy. It was a hell of a fight.
Yeah, I would have loved to have been there. I had another occasion.
Well, it'll be coming out on MSG cable, so everybody will get a chance to see it, I'm sure.
And Basante got a good opportunity because he went from the Contender show, virtually unknown boxer, and he went on to do very well in that show. And moved on to being in the spotlight and fighting John Duddy. John Duddy's a great guy. I met him at Steve Acunto's AAIB luncheon this past December. And John seems just like a great guy.
He is.
A really dynamite person.
He's a down-home type of kid. You know, he's having a ball. I was speaking to him not too recently. I was in the Bronx, and he said, I'm going to go as far as I can go. It's a nice ride. I'm enjoying it. And the people just love him. He's really down to earth. He's a good kid.
His parents are really nice people also. One of my trainers at the club, Ryan O'Leary, Ryan was actually hanging out with his parents the other night. He gave me a call about midnight. And he says, you know who I'm hanging out with? He said, I'm with John Duddy's parents. It was the night before the match. I said, John better not be there because he's got to fight tomorrow. He says, nah, he's home sleeping. But tell me about the scoring for a boxing match like that, the professional scoring. I know a lot of people don't know about that.
Actually, I brought a card that we use, and this card is the New York State Athletic Commission official scorecard. I don't know if you can take a look at it. And basically it has the red corner and the blue corner, and of course you get the names right because that means a lot. Has the date, the round that you're working, and there's the points. And it's a 10-point must system in New York State. And then if there's any deductions, you would put them in, deduct how many points that the referee is asking you to deduct. And then you don't have to figure it out. You just do it, just do 10-9 and leave it that way. And then they'll do the math later on. The commission will, actually. But the scoring factors are clean punches or harder punches landed, damaging punches. Effective aggressiveness, where someone is coming in, he's aggressive, but if he's aggressive and he's getting popped, and he's not getting, any blows in, he's not really effective aggressive, so he's really losing the fight. But effective aggressive scoring, cleanly, he can win that round. Ring generalship is the style and techniques that he uses to defend himself and also to punch. And of course, defense is very important. And with those 4 categories, we then look at the round, and at the end of the round, we should be able to know the score, if it's 10-9 and which way. And it does have a chance to go from, A boxer to B boxer and B boxer back to A. So you're not necessarily counting the blows, but you're really looking for the harder, more effective blows that are landing and the cleaner landing blows. And you go back and forth, so at the end you should be able to write your scorecard right away. Another thing is the remarks, which is on the bottom. The commission likes us to say a few words. Let's say in Duddy's case, he was using his left hook very well, so at that round, good left hooks to the head. Or if Basante was moving well and then scoring with counter blows, we would put that down. Stuff like that nature, give you an idea. One particular round was very close, and I had it for Duddy by really the slimmest of margins, because he was a little more effective in the aggressive, more aggressive, more effective. But I also had him winning, and I had Basante losing that round, but I put close round. So this way it would be no, if anything, well, what happened there? It was very close. And it happened another judge had it the other way. So you see that was pretty close.
Especially when the other corner argues the decision, they want to come up and see the scorecard.
Sure. And then you can look, you can see that, and then you can go over it. And of course they have the videos and what have you too. I think a lot of times if the punches are not clean and they land haphazardly and on the arms and the back of the head and all, we don't give any points for that. So it gets a little sloppy. Even though a guy, like I said, he could be aggressive, but he's missing all the shots. You really, really have to concentrate. You really, really have to focus in on what you're looking at, and then decipher and come up with the score at the end of the round.
Well, I have to say that Ron Scott Stevens, who's the commissioner down there, he's got a great job, and he's done a lot to change that commission.
Yeah, he's a real boxing man.
Yeah, he really is. He's a great person to have in there.
Yes.
And we're lucky to have guys like Steve Acunto, who's also a commissioner down there.
Yes.
And it's a great staff down there. You guys are doing an amazing job.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of it. And every time we go out to the card, and before we leave, he gets us all together in the room, inspectors, judges, referees, everyone, including the doctors. And, he tells us how good we're doing, but make this your first fight, like it's your first time, and you really, really love it, and you really want to do the right thing. don't get, complacent with it.
Exactly.
Because something could happen and, could jeopardize, boxing is dangerous, so it could jeopardize the health of a fighter. Or it just could jeopardize the sport in a sense if you're not judging properly. That's kind of a black eye that sometimes happens in the sport of boxing.
Now, this scoring system, how is this different from, say, a scoring system maybe of 10 years ago, 20
well,
years ago?
the point systems, the point system was a 10 must. So one must have 10 points in the round to win. Now, it could be 10-9, 10-8, 10-7, and how that could happen is a 10-9 round is where a person wins by one blow or maybe by 20 or more blows, and that's a 10-9. But a 10-8, if there's a knockdown, you get an extra point. So you automatically give a point for the person that made the knockdown. So now it becomes a 10-8 round. But it's not that the other person that's been knocked down, suppose it's a flash knockdown, he comes back and really turns it on, you may make that a 10-9.
Yeah.
You see, so you have that leadway. We are very conservative about it. It's usually 10-9, and if it's 10-8, it usually has to have a knockdown. But not that I've never done it where if someone is winning the round and if he's really winning the round and just overwhelmingly, beating the other opponent, we could do a 10-8. That's very rare, but it does happen.
Yeah.
Also, a 10-10 is where you really say it's really almost a draw here. You really can't pick a winner, but you try to stay away from that because that could cause problems.
Exactly.
And that's basically where everybody's mindset is in New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, throughout most of the United States and even the world.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty strict. If the referees, sometimes you may, unfortunately, in the amateurs versus the professional, if the referee doesn't count a knockdown and you happen to know or feel that it was a knockdown, you have to go with the referee.
Yeah.
Whereas in the amateurs, you could X him or J him with a little note saying, I felt such and such, and they go to the jury with that.
Yeah.
But in professional boxing, no. It's happened maybe once, I think, in my total career, if I can remember it.
Now, they have electronic scoring in the amateurs.
Yes.
And how do you feel electronic scoring would do in professional boxing, say, in New York State? I don't personally think it would do well.
I don't think it would do well because when I watched on the Olympics, and I've done it myself, everybody within a 25th of a second has to click the button for a particular fighter.
Yeah.
And I noticed that they only click it for hard blows like a left hook or a right hand or an uppercut. Very rarely do they click it for a jab. And the jab is an opening punch, but it's also could be a devastating type punch, is setting someone up with a big right hand. So sometimes it's good and sometimes it isn't. I don't know. I never really was an advocate for that. I figured you should be able to, you're not going to count, oh, he did 175 punches versus 182 punches, which they do have people that count.
Yeah.
But what was the quality of the punches? Were they hard? Were they direct? Or were they just effective? Were they slaps? Or they just skimmed and what have you? So you have to break that down. And they try to do what CompuBox does a pretty good job with that. But it's not always what the judge sees.
And you judged amateur boxing prior,
many
obviously,
years. I refereed and judged amateur boxing, different levels from kids up to Lake Placid, or Olympic trials and stuff like that. So, and Golden Gloves every year, that was always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And
very
judging
exciting.
and stuff. And again, it's a little bit different, but if you're focused and you go by the rules, you can easily have a person who's an amateur boxer with a great jab and winning, no matter what. Because even if he gets knocked down, it's only 1/3 of a point, which he has to get knocked down 3 times for a point to score against him.
Yep.
Whereas if it was in the pros and the guy was jabbing, got hit with a right hand and fell down, I have to tell you, but it's 10-8 the other way, not 10-8 or 10-9 in his favor. So that's another thing that you have to look out for between the two judging.
And changing subjects for a second, you have two wonderful kids, Lauren,
yes,
and Matthew. And how old are they?
Lauren is 19 next week. She's
happy birthday to you, Lauren.
Thank you. And she's at excuse me. She's at the University of Utah studying dance and ballet, and that's going to be her career. So far, that's what she's been doing since she's 6 years old. She's been all over. And Matthew's into soccer, big time. I do take him to the gym once in a while, so he does get a chance to spar with a couple of guys.
Oh, so he does?
He does, yeah. He understands the sport. He's a pretty good judge, actually.
Yeah?
He judged the Ward Gaddy 1 fight the same way I did. from home, and I was at the doing it.
When you got home, did he say, "Dad, I agree with your score"?
Yes, he did. He gave me the paper, and he signed it just like I do. It was kind of cute. He was about 12 years old at the time.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I have my boy is 6 years old. He's just picking up the boxing. He loves it.
Yeah.
So
it's a good game. You got to be respectful of the game. It's a tough game, but it's a nice game.
Get you in great shape. Mentioning.
Yes.
One of the most memorable fights, I'm sure, of your career.
Yes.
You mentioned Ward Gaddy.
Won, yes.
Ward Gaddy won.
Yes,
now, two great guys.
Yeah, two great guys, and boy, are they warriors. Yeah. I mean, they were just unbelievable. I just couldn't believe it. First round, second round, third round was all Gotti. No problem. I said, boy, this is going to be an easy night, figuring it would be a war.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, we got into the fourth round, and things started to change as soon as Mickey got his eye cut a little bit. And he came back in, and, of course, there was a foul. And then the whole fight started to become the rumble in the jungle, so to speak, you know. It was really something else. Back and forth, back and forth. At one point, when I was watching it, I was concentrating, and I was saying, you know, trying to make sure I do the right thing because it's so many blows, you really have to watch it. And I said, this is exactly like a Rocky movie, but it's for real. Yeah, you know, these punches are really happening. And that was a heck of a fight. The crowd went nuts, and that ninth round is memorable. You can watch that. Yeah. I still have it at home. I watch. You can watch it over and over. How Gaddy came back after just about. I mean, I thought it was going to be a stoppage, to be honest, and he just came back. And
you weren't the only one. I think everybody thought that.
Yeah. So my score was a draw. They had Mickey Ward as a majority by 1 point. Yeah. But whatever. It could have been anybody's fight. That was so close, and such a great fight.
Mickey's one of my favorite boxers.
Yeah.
I was actually hanging out talking golf with him. He's an avid golfer.
Golfer, yeah.
And we were hanging out at the Crown Plaza one day.
Right.
And just talking about golf. And in the middle of the conversation, he's talking, I'm talking, and he was mentioning about a golf outing he recently went on. And I just, in my mind, I thought for a second, I said, wow, I'm standing here with Mickey Ward.
Right.
One of the greatest boxers, and in my opinion, you know, this day.
Warriors.
Yeah, warriors, definitely. I mean, amazing punch to the body, you know, every time. So he's really a gentleman. And Arturo's a great guy, too.
Oh, yeah. They're both really, really fine. You saw it at the end, too. They really had a lot of respect for each other. And became best friends after that. Yeah. 3 tremendous bouts.
Yeah, they actually golf a lot together.
Yeah. So now they're best of friends, and they help each other out, which is a great thing. And that's how boxing is somewhat of a brotherhood. People that are involved in it, they do stay together for a long time.
There's the good guys and the bad guys, just like in any sport.
Yeah.
So we're fortunate enough to know some great guys. We have another gentleman in common. Tell me about Kid Sharkey. You know Sharkey for many years?
Yes, he's been training fighters forever with Steve back in the old days at the Y, and then with Charlie Caserta at the Cage when the Cage was up at Ferris Avenue for many years. And I went to a function not too long ago in Danbury. It was the police against the firemen, and he showed up, and he was treated like the Pope. Watch him. Make sure he gets over there. Follow him. Do what he wants, whatever he wants. He can get where he wants to sit. It was unbelievable. So there was police escort everywhere he went. They have a lot of admiration and respect for Sharkey and Steve. And Snipes was there, Ronaldo Snipes. So he was like so happy to see him.
I really wanted to be there that night. I brought Sharkey to Steve's house in Mount Vernon.
Yes.
And Steve and Peter Wood, who drove them up there.
Right.
And Sharkey, we were all hanging out there for a while. Yes. And I had somewhere I had to go. I wasn't able to make it to the event. Yes. And I tell you, I heard it was just an amazing event. Vito Anafermo was there.
Oh, yes.
Emil Griffith, Ronaldo Snipes, Herschel, who else was there? Carl the Truth Williams.
Carl the Truth Williams.
And you.
And myself.
Yes.
Steve, Sharkey. And also Lou Savarese showed up.
Yeah, Louis was there.
Louis was there. Yeah. So it was a nice little evening. There's a couple other fighters. No mistaking. I'm sorry.
John Carlo, I believe, was there.
Yeah, he was one of the trainers.
Spinks.
Yeah, he retired Spinks. Yeah.
A great guy.
Yeah.
Definitely. So that was a nice night of boxing.
It was excellent. The amateurs really put on a good show. The people having a ball.
Yeah.
and it was a good benefit, and I think everybody was happy.
There was a police fire charity
charity
event.
Right? Yeah, they had some amateurs and they had some policemen against firemen, so it's always worth a roar, which it was. It was very loud.
And now you originally trained at I trained out of the cage also.
Yes.
Which spawned a lot of great boxers from Westchester.
Yes.
And that was a pretty tough gym. And
yes.
Actually, the Westchester Boxing Club's in the location of the old cage at 220 Ferris Avenue now.
Okay. Yes.
And did you trained at the cage up there on Ferris? I know it was at a couple of locations prior to that.
I did earlier as a younger a couple of times. We even had some smokers up there, little fights that we used to have when we were kids with Charlie and his brother Frank. And then I went over to the Y, which is right down the street basically, and we did most of it there. But where I did train afterwards, when we really got into it, is Gleasons when it was on Westchester Avenue, and that's a whole another world down there. And Gleasons is the place today to be. Of all the gyms.
It really is.
It's really
an amazing
everybody's
place.
there.
Yeah, now it's on Front Street in Brooklyn.
Yeah, Brooklyn. Yeah, it's moved 3 times, but the old place was a little too small, I guess, for the amount of boxers that they did have. But that's all they had at the time. Then when they moved to 32nd Street, I believe it was pretty good. They had 2 rings.
Yeah.
They only had 1 ring that time in the old days. Now they had 2. And now it's great. Now it's like he's got everything.
Yeah, it is amazing.
So everybody shows up. You can just about see anybody walk in the door there today.
It is. It's a great place. You just sit there and
just
doing your own little workout on the bag, and somebody will walk in, and you're like, wow,
Zab Judah's here.
Yeah,
He starts working out or whatever.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing place.
It is pretty amazing.
That's cool. Now, what weight did you box at?
I believe it or not, welterweight.
Yeah.
Up to junior middleweight, and then I went back to school. Took some time off to please my mother. She hated the sport, obviously, because you're going to get hurt, you're going to get killed, this and that, what have you. But went back to school.
Hofstra University, correct? And you took chemistry, did you?
I went to Lehman City University at Lehman at Bronx. And I did go to Farmingdale, so Hofstra it's in Long Island.
I meant.
Before that, and I graduated from City University, and then I went on to teaching and other things. But what happened is somewhere along the line, I guess after the 2 years of just relaxing and being a student and being normal, I guess, going back to the ring, we tried to make a little bit of a comeback, but it never really precipitated, and I just left it. I guess that fire was gone for the time being,
And now how did you go from being a boxer and getting into you still love the sport, obviously. Have a passion
I always, when I didn't box, I was training like kids. And so I kept in my hand in it that way. And then at one time with Lou Cadella, who was an official for a couple of years at that time, in the amateur, says, why don't you take your hand out of reffing and judging and stuff? I said, well, I could judge. I love judging. That's a fun thing. So to get my hand back into it, I started doing that in little shows and stuff, and that just kept building and building. And 15 years later, I turned professional again, and I was able to box.
That's great.
To judge.
Lou was on the show recently, and he's a great guy. He's really a great guy. He's done a lot for amateur boxing. I think he's one of the top amateur boxing referees in the country, without a doubt.
Definitely. He's always there, no matter where. At the Empire State Games, he's there. Golden Gloves, sectionals, regionals, the Northeast up in Lake Placid. He's always ready to go.
Yeah, he is. He's a wonderful person. We're lucky. We had all these great guys in our lives, and
met a lot of good people in
true
boxing.
Gentlemen. And now, are there any matches coming up that we should know about, that we should look out for?
Well, of course, the May 5th with De La Hoya and Mayweather. Everybody's talking about that. That's the big one. But there are some bouts over the horizon. I'm trying to remember. There's a Zab Judah's fighting Cotto in the Garden in June, early June also. Those are 2 big fights. But also tonight in New York City in Hammerstein Ballroom, they're going to have a fight. Curtis Stevens is taking on an opponent. I don't remember the name, and it should be a pretty good card.
Yeah, Cotto actually boxed Paulie Malignaggi.
Yes.
Down at the Garden.
Yes.
And Sharkey and I were there ringside for that.
Yes.
And that was a fight.
That was a fight and a half. I
saw
that
Paulie,
too.
He's got a lot of heart.
Yeah.
Kid.
Yeah, he does.
He fought on with a broken cheekbone, orbit
bone.
bone.
Oh, yeah. He was. We were ringside seeing all that blood. It was like, when's he going to stop? But he just wouldn't give up. He's a tough kid. Yeah. I have to give him credit there. And, yeah, if he fights him again, you don't know what will happen. I worked the Kelly Pacquiao fight earlier that evening, and Kelly got stopped by
so you were there?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, okay. I worked the WBC Continental Championship. It was scheduled for 12 rounds, but it went 4. Yeah. And he stopped him, and that was that. But Kelly's getting on in years, but he still has his hand. He's won a couple fights after that, so I have to say he's very resilient.
Yeah, I was surprised to see Kelly get stopped, but that was a body shot, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. At first we thought it was, what was it? It wasn't no shot, but then when we reviewed it, we looked and we saw, and he got it right here, and
I think it shocked everybody.
Yeah, it did.
I was watching the bout, and I looked up at the big screen for a second. When I looked up, I said, "Wait!" And I looked back down. I said,
he's
"Wow,
down.
He's down."
You can tell a body shot. They're alive. They're awake and they're down there. But at the same token, they just can't move. They just can't get up.
Exactly. It took it all out of them.
Yeah, it takes more than 10 seconds, and then the referee has to stop.
Just like with De La Hoya against Hopkins.
With Hopkins, same thing. Yeah. You knew he was there. He was banging this, but he couldn't get up. It's just tremendous how the body just shuts down and says, no. Just stay here.
Trust me, I know.
We all know that.
Yeah, the only 3 times I've been stopped, they were all, you could hit me with the baseball bat in the chin, but when it comes to the body shots, it's the only times I've been stopped was with body shots.
Body shots, yeah.
And you try to get that air back in your lungs.
Just can't.
It's hard.
That's it.
So, no more boxing aspirations for you. I guess you're officially retired
I
now.
think so, yes.
Me too. I guess the years
Leave
catch
for the
up
young
with us.
kids.
But yeah, and it's great training the kids. Do you still have a hand at training?
Yeah, I still work out. Don't work out that much, but I do work with kids up at the Westchester College. It's a community college.
Yeah. Steve and Jack Murphy.
Jack Murphy, yes. Yeah, we help out some kids up there, and now they have some mature kids and also some men that have come up.
Yeah, Mike Calderola is actually training boxers there. With Steve and Jack. They're doing a great job.
Mike's a good kid. He spars with my son.
Does he?
He loves my son, and 2 of them. Also, of course, he's like the heavyweight, and he moves him around. But he's been pushing him around a little bit, which is good. Give him a little. He's honest. Keep him honest, I say.
Yeah, Mike is great. I mean, he spars with all the kids. But thanks a lot for coming on the show. I really appreciate
a lot of fun.
it.
This is great. Too short.
Yes, we'll definitely have you on another time. And if you have any questions or comments, you can mail any of your questions or comments, or you can call us at 914-328-1773, or you can write to Westchester Boxing Club, 220 Ferris Avenue, White Plains, New York, first floor, 10603. This has been another edition of In the Ring. Thanks a lot. I'm your host, Nicky Knuckles, and have a great day, and keep on punching.